All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for week number 2. This is Global Business Communication. This is an upper year course, so there's only about 10 students in this class, which I think is great. And normally, we could have a more personal, intimate environment where almost like a seminar. When I was in upper year, I had the opportunity to take some classes where there was half a dozen to a dozen students, and it's a really great environment to be with the professor. Unfortunately, the coronavirus has made it very difficult for us to meet together, so this is how it's going to be. The quality of the first week's video was not very good, so I apologize for that. Partly it was because I tried to record in the classroom and my phone didn't pick up the audio very well. I do have a professional microphone, but I tried to use my laptop and the webcam is really poor quality, so I abandoned that effort. So there's been some technical difficulties. I'm in my home office right now. This is my library at my house, and now I'm trying to record in a quieter, closer environment, and this is how it's going to be with the selfie stick and the phone for a while. I heard that the English department is considering getting webcams for us, so if we have to do this over the long term, then you can expect better production value. Maybe at the beginning of the video I can fade in and at the end fade out and that kind of stuff. But anyway, just focus on the content and what I'm trying to say, not the quality of the video, because what I'm trying to do my best is to communicate to you what the content of this lecture, what this class is supposed to educate you about. We are going to rearrange the schedule somewhat, as I told you before. So, because we can't do group presentations, which was the original plan, there's going to have to be some changes. So this week we are doing spoken and written communication, how to speak and write. I'm going to describe some theories and some ideas about how that works. Some of this is going to come from the English liberal arts background, but it's very applicable to the business environment. I think sometimes English majors or humanities majors in general get hired in a department in a business because they're able to communicate effectively, and as Asia business majors, I think international business majors, I think you're going to want the same sort of skills that they possess, and that's what I'm going to try and deliver to you this semester. A little bit of background in the theory and understanding how to break down and analyze communication is very valuable for you. You may end up in something like human resources or marketing, where these kind of skills and this kind of knowledge is very useful. So let's proceed with how to put together something that's spoken or written communication. Before I continue, actually, what I want to make note of is this is a Monday class, a Monday-Friday class. Originally, I was planning on doing some cyber lectures anyway, so I have a lot of content. There is no textbook for this class. Most of the stuff that I'm going to talk to you about has been created this semester. Specifically, this is a new course, so the curriculum is brand new, which I have put together. It's mostly based on articles. Some of these articles, because of the fact that we can't be in class, I've found them recently. So I'm incorporating them into the curriculum, as we go. And that's because everything has changed. This is really significant that I have to talk to you through video lecture instead of meeting you in person. And it does, there are things that have to be adjusted significantly. And some professors are having more trouble than others. It's bothering me. It's made my life very difficult. I prefer to be in the classroom with you and explain in real time, back and forth, what is going on. And I think most professors are the same. And that's especially if they've been doing it. I've been doing it for 10 years. Some professors at our university have been doing it for 30. And just to suddenly record themselves in a one direction situation, or just to not have that back and forth situation, or to have the students watching the students be attentive, is probably difficult. So what happened was the first 2 weeks were canceled, and March 2nd was our first class, and we have to make that up. And the makeup date was set for yesterday, which was the 21st of March, which was a Saturday. And I knew you and the rest of my students were not keen about a Saturday class. So I had already informed the department that I would do a cyber lecture to replace that. So the thing is, I wasn't really expecting to not have a regular class and a cyber lecture. I was expecting to have a regular class and a cyber lecture, but now it's both. So what's happening this week essentially is the makeup class was supposed to be Saturday. So this week you have to do 2 cyber lectures, okay? So this is the first video lecture I'm delivering to you. This is about spoken and written communication. And the second one this week is going to be about misinformation, which was not on the syllabus. This is something I've included because of the coronavirus situation. I've got some new material together since the semester started, but misinformation was going to be dealt with at some point during the term, but now it's just become such a big issue that now it's going to be included this weekend, next week, or the combined weeks. So this is week 2 that I'm delivering to you right now, and I would like you to watch this video lecture and log in and get credit for the cyber lecture and everything. And later this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to upload a second video, and you have to log in again, and you have to watch the second video because we need to do the makeup class and the regular class both this week. I hope that's clear. I'm sorry about that. If you have any questions, you can email me, but basically they're overlapping on each other. The second makeup class is weeks away, and I will give you a warning, but this kind of snuck up on me, to be honest. So I realized on Saturday that we needed to do a second lecture this week. So this is how it's going to go. Both of the lectures will expire next Sunday at midnight, just like normal. So you have the whole week to do both of them. Just check this one out first, because the next video lecture is going to add to this one. Okay, so let's get into the material for this week. So there's a few different ways that you can categorize communication. Spoken and written is just one of them. So we can just simply divide all of our communication into speaking and listening and reading and writing, of course. And the speaking is more natural, not for all people because this is personality related, but human beings did speak and listen long before they wrote. We started communicating through body language and through sounds, through visual things. And the writing came along very late in human history. So writing and reading are harder because it requires actual education. It's almost like when you speak, that's what you're born to do. And writing is not something you're born to do, something that requires a painful process of education, of discipline. And some people, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a native speaker or not, writing skills are hard to come by. So it's a really long, painful process where it seems like, you know, when you're 2 years old, you just listen to your parents and then you start imitating them and then you just start speaking and then you're able to speak. But that's not the way writing is. So writing is just a very tedious, long, like repetitious sort of behavior. So that's one way you can divide language, just simply the speaking and listening, you know, aspect, and but in the writing and reading. But it gets more complicated than that when you add all these other elements to the communication. So you can have combinations of these things. You can have what I'm doing right now. You can have spoken communication where one person speaks and the other person listens, and you just go in one direction, or you go in one direction for a long time, and then the other person asks a question, and then you continue. That's basically what a lecture is. Our old friend Socrates, Koreans like to say Socrates, I think, so if I'm not pronouncing that wrong. The Greek way is similar to the Korean way, so that's probably the better way to say it. Socrates, the dialogues, the Platonic dialogues, they were written, but they were written in such a way to imitate speech, which involved basically a student asking a question. Actually, I should correct myself. It's Socrates asking a question to the student, and the student giving a simple answer, and then Socrates explaining why the student is wrong in a really long speech. That's essentially what many of the Platonic dialogues involve. So that's sort of a way of speaking. But the normal way that we speak is to take turns, where one person speaks and the other person speaks, and back and forth. So that there's different ways to constitute speaking itself and written. So we can divide them that way too. I want to, and there's formal. Another way of dividing is to talk formally or informally, what we call casual speaking, including lots of slang and not worrying about, you know, titles or correctness or manners, and just being familiar with the person and talking like that. The informal and formal division is quite clear and common as well. But what I want, the particular type of categorization I want to talk about today is what a communications professor from Canada named Marshall McLuhan, communications professor from Canada named Marshall McLuhan said, called the hot medium or cold medium. And he wrote this really critically acclaimed, I guess I should say, not critically acclaimed, but recognized scholarly paper called, this book called The Medium is the Massage, which I always thought was called The Medium is the Message, but apparently it's the massage. But anyway, the essential elements that we want to look at from that book is what I just said, the hot medium or cold medium. So essentially what he meant by the hot medium or cold medium is that a way of communicating that involves a hot medium is where you can interact with another person. You can communicate like texting or the internet or talking to a person directly on the telephone, or in person. When you have a chat, when you converse directly, that is essentially what a hot medium is, where there's a give and take in a two-way communication, whereas a cold medium is sort of like just a delivery medium where information is just given and received. And in particular, he mentions the television because when he wrote this is 60, 70 years ago. This is post-World War II. I'm not sure the exact date when it was published off the top of my head. But what he was concerned with was really how cold mediums make you passive. And it's a pretty well-known opinion that television makes you less intelligent. I don't think that's necessarily true, but what he was getting at was that it makes you less active. And I think we can all attest to that. That's why in English, we call people who watch TV all the time couch potatoes, because it's like a potato on a sofa that doesn't move. They just absorb things. And if they're absorbing things that are not informative and not stimulating, they're just essentially wasting their time by consuming things that don't provide any educational value or some value, anyway, less value, then, we say things like it's the boob tube, or I think in Korean there's an expression they call it the stupid box or the idiot box. So that's what a cold medium is where you're just receiving, and it tends to make you just less analytical. And one of the main ideas of this lecture today is to think about things critically, to develop critical thinking skills. So when you get to upper year university, I know, just like me, when you go to university, you're adjusting, you're overwhelmed, you're going from teenager high school to adult university, you're meeting people and you're interested in all kinds of things, and school might not be the top priority. But when you get to upper year, when you get to the junior, senior level, third year or fourth year, if you're like me, you start to mature a little bit and you start to realize, well, what am I going to do after university? I need to understand. I can't just skip class and not pay attention. I need to get some advice from my colleagues, my classmates, my professors. I need to find out what I should do with myself. And I think the most valuable thing that I got from my English education was the professors emphasizing whatever subject it was. In my department from McMaster University in Canada, the professors were very well educated, and they were very encouraging, and they really cared about all of us, especially once we matured and we were giving back to them. That they wanted us to be able to handle managing our lives, not just handle Shakespeare or look at celebrity culture, but be able to use use our critical thinking skills in any situation. So, since we're talking about business communication, I don't like to get political in my classes, but inevitably there's going to be some political aspects. So, the assignment that I would like you to do for next week, it's not political in this case, but it could be, depending on how you decide to approach this. The makeup lecture is going to be about misinformation. And misinformation is something that is rampant these days, because on the internet, people just feel like they can say whatever they want without responsibility. People get misinformed. It's part of life. It's part of culture. It's part of communication. That there's going to be mistakes that are made, but there's certain types of misinformation that are even worse, like what we call disinformation, which is governments, people, politicians, spies, military agencies, companies, presidents intentionally, telling us lies or things that can easily be misunderstood, and that's called disinformation. And it's kind of like a plan for giving people the wrong information. Misinformation is almost more innocent in a sense, but it's just as bad, because if people pick up on it, people can spread the wrong information on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and other people, because they don't even do it on purpose, people get the information and they believe them. The people sound sincere, and they're not trying to tell other people something that's false. So it's just as dangerous. It doesn't really matter if you plan to or not. So what you need to do is not be passive, not just sit on the sofa and just listen to, let's say, Fox News. That's just the American one. But there's all kinds of media. It doesn't matter if it's a government or it's a private organization or it's a business trying to tell you to think something. You need to think on your own, and you need to be what we call in English discerning. You need to discern. You need to, first of all, you need to be skeptical. Oh, maybe that doesn't sound like it's true. I need to check. That's skepticism. But you also need to discern. Like, you need to make judgments about information, whether you feel something in your gut, like, oh, this isn't normal. It doesn't matter. You need to be able to distinguish between information that could easily be made up, even if it sounds like it's fine. You need to find out. So we're going to talk about all kinds of different types of communication, spoken and written, this class, presentations, interviews. I think there's a good chance that we might be doing this for a while, considering all the signs, all the negative signs in other countries. Korea is handling this pretty well currently, but I think we have to change the way that we do things, so we might end up having a whole semester like this. And if we do, then we're going to end up doing video calls and recordings, and we're going to use all kinds of different mediums to communicate with each other, so that we can, so I can educate you and we can communicate effectively. So we need to find ways to do that. And every mode of communication has advantages and disadvantages. If you're texting, if you're talking on the phone, if you're talking in person, you got body language, you don't have body language. There's audio, there's visual, there's one direction, there's two directions. There's all kinds of different ways of breaking it down. And we're going to talk about this further. And on the website, I'm going to do, this week, I'm going to write up something for you to read in written form as well. So this is just the spoken version, but there'll be something for you to digest in a written form as well when you visit the website this week. So the article this week I've selected is this. I honestly, at first, I was taken in by it. I've looked at the sky the last month in Korea. I've seen the air quality improve. I've seen bees flying around for the first time in like 5 years, pollinating flowers. So I know that nature is recovering somewhat from what people are calling like the break from human behavior that is being provided by having like 2 billion people stop flying and driving and consuming like crazy. So all of you know all of you students who are in Korea, at least we've had horrible air quality for at least 5 years. I think going back, I came here in 2007, the end of 2006, the air quality has improved dramatically. That's a fact. So there's all these feel-good stories about nature going around. But I saw this one about the dolphins swimming in the canals in Venice. And I was like, oh, that's just good. I feel bad. Everybody feels bad, but that's good. But that's not, apparently that's not true. The dolphins have been still swimming off the coast of Venice continuously for the last, I don't know, 1 million years. I don't know, for thousands of years. They were not swimming down the canals. I think the canals have improved because the water quality is improved because there's less boat traffic. But no dolphins swimming down the Venice canals. There was a bunch of elephants that went to a village in China, and it was a pretty crazy story. It was like they stomped around the village and there was nobody around, so they just like drank some corn wine or something, got drunk, and then stomped around. That apparently didn't happen either. That's a pretty ridiculous story. I'd never really believed that one. The dolphin one was more believable, but you get the idea. The link is to the article there. I would like you to read the article. You don't have to respond to it, but it gives you an idea of what I'm looking for. I want you to find some sort of misperception or misconception that has been generated by the coronavirus pandemic. It can be a myth, or it can be false information. It can even be something that was the content of a presidential speech, because we all know that that's been happening too. So it doesn't matter where the source comes from, but that there's all these kind of rumors about certain things. If you eat certain things or you drink certain things, that it will protect you from the virus. And these things are actually really dangerous. It's a kind of misinformation that we need to be careful about, and that we need to develop our ability to analyze correctly. So I want you to read the article that I linked, and then I want you to find your own article. I don't want you to copy the article. I want you to read the article, digest the information, summarize it, and write it in, on one page. I want you to summarize it, and I want you to analyze it, and discuss why people have been taken in by it, and what's the negative and positive effects of it, if there are any positive effects. But you need to uncover the truth. You need to dispel the myth that has been circulated, and there's hundreds of these things actually. Every country's got their own story, and you need to debunk or dispel that myth, and explain about how what the effect of it is. And if you can email that to me, the instructions will be on the website, and that will be your first assignment. That's due next week. I think tomorrow is the 23rd, so that would make March 30th the due date. Okay, so you need to log in twice this week, and you need to do that assignment, read the article, and follow the instructions. And that is this week's first lecture, and the second one will be forthcoming. So thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.